Morning, boss. This week's income from the sponsors has cleared, and we're making good profit against our running cost.
What is up, guys, and welcome back to a brand new video. Today, we are back with another episode of F1 2020 Career Mode for the My Team journey. Heading into this episode, the Canadian Grand Prix, we have a major rear downforce upgrade which has gone on the car, which is only going to further strengthen our position in the championship. There's the vehicle comparison. We'll have another look at that in just a second, but for the time being, we're changing our engine components. We're going back to Spec 1, and we'll make sure to actually change it for quality this time. I promise you that. In terms of facility upgrades, we're going to go for fabrication. Now that the car is in a really good spot performance-wise, we need to shore up other areas of the car, that being the durability. So that's going to take a focus now for the foreseeable future, because we are the worst car in the field durability-wise, and we have been found out by that. George Russell, for example, had to take a grid penalty in Monaco, and that cost him big time. So if we want to win championships, this is an area of the car which we need to address quick smart. So that is what we are doing. Now, George Russell, we did a... what did we do? We did some kind of facility upgrade for him in the last episode, and that has gone on, and now it means that he's 87 rated. So that's really cool. But with that major rear downforce upgrade, we've skyrocketed above Mercedes to be solidly the best car, at least on paper. I still don't think we're the best over one lap. We'll have to wait and see, though. I feel like I'm Toto Wolff now, just downplaying the performance of the car. But, up until this point, I don't feel like we have been head and shoulders the best car. But maybe now with a rear downforce upgrade, we might be. We'll have to wait and see. But practice one bodes pretty well for us. Topping that session, trying to impress the sponsors as always. But we never truly know the performance until we get into qualifying proper. So, speaking of, we're going to do that now. And we're going to change to fresh power unit components. Hallelujah. I know how to manage a team. Who would have thought? But now we are going to head into qualifying. It's actually going to be raining for this session, so that could really throw a spanner into the works. Hopefully, we have the pace. Let's do it. So here we are then, wet qualifying for the Canadian Grand Prix. Crucially, we have a dry race, so there's no need to get too invested in a wet setup or anything like that. We're going to be compromising today, essentially, for tomorrow. But we're looking at the forecast. It actually gets lighter as time goes on. In half an hour, it's going to be light rain. In 45 minutes, there's going to be no rain at all. So as long as we can make it to Q3, there won't be... when we get to Q3, I think it'll be dry tyres, potentially right at the end, maybe. So that's something we have to plan for, and that's why I'm going for the dry setup. But early doors, pace looks there. A lot of other people still need to set their times. We come to the end of Q1, and the light rain kind of hits a little early, and so it is time for intermediate tyres right at the death here. We're going to go out with enough time to set 2 laps, and hopefully be the last one on track to set a time. I don't want to be the guy who's caught out again in qualifying 1 with my pants down, so let's avoid a situation like that if we can, like Baku being caught with basically no engine in the back of our car. That was fun. So I don't want to attempt another last or first challenge. Let's actually go from pole to win, maybe. I don't know. But fastest lap of the Grand Prix. It's not the Grand Prix, it's qualifying. Don't get ahead of yourself, Ben. But yeah, I'm doing exactly just that. I'm not getting too ahead of myself. I'm making sure that we solidify our position here in qualifying, doing the extra lap as well, improved by 7/10, and it does secure us provisional pole and a free ticket into the next session. George Russell, P8, elected to stay on the wet compound tyres, so a little bit complacent there for a lot of runners in this field, including Lewis Hamilton and Max Verstappen. The 2 wet weather dynamos are out in qualifying 1. Their complacency has been their undoing, thinking that they were safe on the wet tyres, whereas a lot of people in slower cars chanced it on inters, and they are through. We've got the likes of Nick De Vries, Mick Schumacher right up there on intermediate tyres, doing really well. and we move on to Q2, and it is more of the same. Marduk Motorsport domination, it seems. I feel like our car is actually quite good in the wet. We proved that in Zandvoort, and we're proving it here. So screw it. Let's have wet weather all weekend. But we get to the end of Q2, and it's actually dry. So the weather is progressing very quickly.
Standing by.
Off we go then. When I told Jeff we were going to leave the garage, he said that there wasn't enough time to actually start a lap. But I'm going to prove him wrong as we cross the line with 7 seconds to spare there. Nick de Vries in the Haas goes to provisional pole. So too does Mick Schumacher. It is happy hour here in Canada. But of course the track has just gone dry and everyone is setting their times on the soft compound tyre. There goes George Russell, 109.7. I'm glad that he hasn't been caught out and hasn't been complacent once again. But I think literally everyone is setting times right at the death here. We're up by 7.5 seconds. We've clouted the wall at the final corner. We go up to the line and it is safety into the next session. Only P4 though. We couldn't manage to beat Nick de Vries or Mick Schumacher in much slower machinery. Those two cars are the slowest in the field, yet they've got second and third in this qualifying session. That's how crazy it's been today. AlphaTauri, pretty good. Sebastian Vettel knocked out in Q2, and neither of the McLarens go through either, so it's a bit of a weird and wacky session. We're going to have 2 back markers here in Q3, which should mean that we can at least get P8. I'm hoping for much more than that. I want a top 5 now, given where our car stands. But we come to the end of Q3. We set a banker time of 107.0. Has us in P5 at the moment. Bottas, Perez, Charles Leclerc, and I'd say George Russell are all ahead of us at this stage. But we're looking to improve if we can. My third sector on my first lap wasn't great, so I'm hoping to improve a bit in this sector of the lap. Nice exit there. A 10th up as we approach the final chicane. This is all about bravery, this last corner. How much you want to risk it. And to be honest, I think I'm willing to risk maybe a bit of the car if I can carry a little bit more speed into this final corner. Make sure we don't mount the curves quite nicely. And we actually have grazed the wall again, much like Q2. But this time, no damage. Across the line. And it is P3. So who has beaten us? We know our teammate has beaten us, but it's Charles Leclerc who was on pole position for this Canadian Grand Prix. I said that we probably don't have the fastest car, and that is proof in the pudding right there. Charles Leclerc grabbing pole position by just over a 10th. Valtteri Bottas, a 10th and a half behind us. No Lewis Hamilton, no Max Verstappen residing in this session, and neither was Sebastian Vettel. So, if not for those big names not being in this session, we could have been a little bit further back. So, that's why I'm not getting ahead of myself with the performance index and how the upgrades are shaping up so far. Once the likes of Mercedes, especially Red Bull, start upgrading, then we've got to have one eye looking over our shoulder a little bit. But yeah, we're getting ready for the Canadian Grand Prix now. Looks like the pace isn't as good as in the dry, but our race pace does always tend to be better than qualifying pace. So I'm hoping we can still gun for the win. Crucially, there's 2 Marduk Motorsport cars up the front, and we're fighting 1 Ferrari and 1 Mercedes. So in the race, we're going to leverage different strategies to hopefully get the win.
We're back once again beside the St. Lawrence River here in Montreal for the Canadian Grand Prix. The event first moved to a variant of this track back in 1978. It was won by none other than Gilles Villeneuve, the first Canadian to ever win his home race, and in whose honour the circuit would be renamed. It's time to see how our drivers are stacking up after yesterday's exciting qualifying session. Charles Leclerc lines up on pole position, just ahead of George Russell, who starts this event from P2. Moving on to the rest of the grid, we have Day, Bottas, Sergio Perez, and Kvyat, Stroll, Ricciardo, De Vries, and Sebastian Vettel. Norris, Albon, Mick Schumacher, they've taken a grid penalty, and Gasly, Verstappen, Hamilton, Kevin Magnussen, and Nobuharu Matsushita. Latifi, Sainz, Ocon, and Antonio Giovinazzi starts from the back of the grid. Which of these talented drivers will come out on top today?
Now that we've got some points on the board, let's continue this form and aim for another top 10 finish.
So grid penalties for Sainz, Ocon and Giovinazzi, as well as the likes of Sebastian Vettel, Lewis Hamilton and Max Verstappen starting way down the order. We've got a very shuffled grid for this Canadian Grand Prix. Expect a lot of fireworks, people coming through the field. Two Marduk Motorsport boys up the front, trying to fight off just one Mercedes and one Ferrari. I hope that we can leverage something to get the victory today. I'm going to go for the 2-stop, but I'm going to do the same strategy that I did in the virtual GP, going soft, medium, soft. I'd imagine that George might go mediums twice to the end. 5 red lights, and away we go for the Canadian Grand Prix. It is go time, and it looks like it's been an okay... It's not been an okay start. It's been pretty poor. Honestly, I don't know what I'm doing wrong. I hit the ideal revs. I shift up. I short shift. Nothing. I try different things all the time, but it just... Yeah, I try. You try yourself, as Fernando would say. But like when it comes to online, my starts are fine. I just think the AI is just ridiculous. But I'm open to ideas for methods to utilize to be good at starts. But it's been okay since that initial getaway. We're still holding P3. In the early stages of this race, I'm actually struggling to maintain pace with Charles Leclerc and my teammate George Russell, who has shot into the lead of this race. He's actually building out a bit of a margin. He's leading by 1.1 seconds over Leclerc. So come lap 3, when the DRS gets enabled, no one will be able to attack him. He's doing a Sebastian Vettel of old, running away with this race, setting fastest laps of the Grand Prix. I am a second off on that first flying lap. That is a concern. So it looks like we might have created a bit of a monster here. Getting the absolute talent of George Russell and pairing him up with what is now one of the best cars on the grid, if not the best car on the grid in the race in Formula 1 in Season 2 of Career Mode. But as the race wears on, I'm starting to get a little bit more pace, a little bit more confidence. It looks like Charles Leclerc maybe doesn't have the same tyre wear upgrades that we do, and we're just phasing in that little bit nicer compared to him. In the early laps, I was struggling for understeer a bit, just with heavy fuel, maybe not running enough downforce. I was running like 4.7 wings. I'm running that golden USA setup that I seem to run everywhere. That's almost like my baseline setup now. Have I shown you guys that setup? I might have done in a video the other day. If not, remind me and I'll show you guys the setup. I don't know, sometime soon. But yeah, we're putting pressure on Leclerc here. We are now in DRS range, and I think this time we are going to have an attack. So into rich fuel mixture. No overtake required. We're going to go to the outside in the final chicane. Leave a lot of space on the inside. Mount the curb. But we get the move done. But it wasn't the greatest exit because we had to leave space. And now Bottas gets the clean run and nearly gets both of us. He does get Charles Leclerc into turn 1. But Leclerc is going to fight back here and actually might out-traction him. Kind of squeeze him out. But no, Bottas gets the better drive, having the more flowing outside run. But Leclerc goes for the dive and takes back P3 in this Canadian Grand Prix. That squabbling has allowed me to get away outside of 1 second, and I'm able to just focus on catching my teammate. The pit window is now open. This is going to be my in-lap, so you can ride on board in fast forward mode and see how I manage my fuel and my overtake over the course of the lap. The tyre wear is getting up there, I think like 40% or so. But into the pit lane we go on this lap. We have pretty much depleted the battery in an effort to get as close to George as we can. We are going to get 1 lap of undercut, and it is imperative that we make the most of this. Hopefully, we don't rejoin in any kind of traffic. There are a lot of cars in the lane at this stage, but I think we're going to rejoin around the likes of that second Mercedes going through the final chicane now. Very slow stop from the boys there, 3.1 seconds. You on holiday mode or something? We're used to 1 second pit stops here in Marduk Motorsport. We rejoin on the circuit, and we're going to get held up here behind Verstappen and Lewis Hamilton and Pierre Gasly as well. So not an ideal scenario when George Russell is carrying on an extra lap in clear air. I'm having to save a bit of fuel and just bide my time behind slower cars on older tyres. Actually, that's a bit unfair to say that a Red Bull and a Mercedes are slower cars. What I mean is that they're held up behind a slower car, which is Pierre Gasly. So they're kind of limited to an AlphaTauri's pace. But they are on old tyres, so I guess they are slower. Anyway, stop digging yourself into massive holes, Ben, and dig yourself out of this predicament you find yourself in, being the number 2 driver in your own team. How embarrassing. There goes George Russell rejoining on the circuit on medium compound tyres. See, George is going to have the high ground for this Grand Prix. Although I'm getting undercuts, it's not really working. He's having fresher tyres for the entirety of the stints. He is going to get held up behind a McLaren here, but he's going to get DRS and he's going to fly right past Lando Norris here. And it's going to be tough. It's going to be very, very tough to actually chase this guy down on one lap older tyres. I know like one lap doesn't really make much of a difference, but when your teammate is so fast, the small things matter.
Currently, the fastest lap is a 1:09.9.
Just checking the fastest up there because I actually went purple to 2 sectors, but still didn't get the lap. So I was thinking maybe it was very close between myself and George, who is only a 10th ahead of me in terms of a fastest lap. There is Charles Leclerc fighting away or trying to get past Valtteri Bottas in this Grand Prix. Leclerc on the soft compound tyre, so he's doing a double soft medium strategy potentially as George goes even faster now in this Canadian Grand Prix. Here comes Leclerc on the outside of Valtteri Bottas, turns to the inside for the right-hander, and these two squabbling away just allows us to run away with this Grand Prix even further. So it's looking likely that this is going to be a 1-2 once again for Marduk Motorsport. But in what order? That is the question. I'm doing my absolute best to chase down my teammate. The gap is 2.4 seconds. We actually gain a bit of time on the straight here in Sector 3, but George is actually pretty mighty in the middle sector of the lap. But, yeah, we're pushing as much as we can. Looks like we're trying to respond and get a purple lap ourselves here, where the gap is hovering around 1.8 to 2 seconds. This time around, we don't actually gain as much time in the 3rd sector through to the final chicane. We do pick up a bit of time there. We're actually quite brave there. You can only get away with being so brave so many times before you get bitten by that outside wall or by corner cutting. But again, we improve, but not by enough. We're only maybe a 10th away from what George's fastest lap is. So the pace is there, but it's not quite close enough. It's just we're going to have to get him on consistency maybe. We don't have the out-and-out speed to get this guy, but I feel like we're maybe a little bit more consistent. I say that as we oversteer into, well, a wall tap there, but we just about get away with that. Thankfully, no puncture on the left rear tyre. It is pit stop time, and that is for another set of mediums, but I'm not going to accept that request to come into the lane on this lap. I'm going to wait until George Russell pits, which is now, and we're going to respond on the next lap, and we're going to have the fresher tyres, but we're also going to go onto the soft compound tyre. I couldn't select a double soft compound strategy, I think, or at least it be faster in the pre-race menu, so I ignored it, and I was just going to do it on the fly, which is what I'm doing. Onto the soft compound tyres now, and we're risking it. We're not really going to lose P2, but I'm going to risk trying to go for the win if I can. So here we go, into the lane. 3-second stop again from the boys. They have not really looked after me at all today. I feel like George has had the faster pit stops, which is interesting. If you pit crew boys want to have some job security, you better improve that in the coming races. But pretty close affair there between myself and Charles Leclerc. We rejoin on the fresh soft compound tyres, and hopefully I can break outside of 1 second to Leclerc. I don't want to drag him along towards my teammate. That's the last thing I want, but we'll try and push on as much as we can. This might be a fastest lap attempt from me here, and we'll see if we can absolutely blow George's fastest lap out of the water here with better tyres. So here we go, purple first sector, attacking the chicanes as much as we can without getting or risking a corner cutting warning through to the final chicane, really slicing that up quite nicely. You can just about get away with 4 wheels over the curb there, but nothing more than that. Fastest lap of the Grand Prix. I think that was like 8 tenths or something faster than George's lap. And we are on the back of him here with 6 laps to go. So if we want to be a threat in this Grand Prix, we need to overtake George early, because our tyres, much like in Baku, will die off towards the end in like the final lap or two. But we have a Racing Point retiring from this Grand Prix. That was Sergio Perez. Very unfortunate for him. No safety car. That actually would have really helped me out in beating my teammate, but no, I'm going to have to make up the difference on track. You can see we're catching up to some lap cars now, and this, I tell you what, this could play into my favor. We are quite low on fuel. We're going to have to do a bit of fuel saving to get to the end of this race, but once we get in the slipstream of George, we can see we're well and truly in as we lose the back end out of the final chicane. We'll be able to save fuel while we're backed up behind these slower cars and just use the slipstream and DRS of our teammate ahead to save even more. So I don't think it'll be too much of a concern, but it's something that's going to hold us back for another couple of laps. So we're going to have to play this very cautiously. We need to attack, we need to get track position, but we also need to save fuel and get in front before our tires die off. So this is a very fine line that we're walking along in this Canadian Grand Prix. My teammate is not slow. I'm having to put in qualifying laps just to stay with this guy. It's pretty ridiculous. Another lap car in the way. Thankfully, Latifi gets well out of it for us, and we're able to fight up the front here. Any more lap traffic on the minimap? It looks like there might be another couple cars we'll catch up to before the end of this Grand Prix. You can see them just up the road. We are in the slipstream still of our teammate. Fuel-wise, not too bad. We're saving about 0.15, 0.2 per lap, and so on that fuel burn, we should get to the end of the Grand Prix based on those numbers, and maybe even be able to push on the last lap if we are extra good with our fuel consumption. But there goes Nick De Vries. He lets both of us go, thankfully. But we are running out of opportunities now. Only 2 laps left to go in this Canadian Grand Prix, and I feel like I need to strike now while the iron is hot. I can't really leave this to the last lap. I ideally would not want to do that. The tyres now are probably, well, they are well past their best, and I think that maybe George's tyres are probably better than mine pace-wise at this point in the Grand Prix. This is right at the crossover point, so I need to get past him now. We are close enough. We're saving fuel. George is losing pace as well at this back end of the Grand Prix. Maybe he's turned his engine down a little bit, so this is the time to strike. Into rich fuel mixture. Overtake is flowing. We're going to get the DRS. This is our best chance of the Grand Prix, and we're going to make it work for us here as we go to the outside on our teammate George Russell for the lead of the Grand Prix into the final chicane. We have the track position. I went a bit deep into there, and now George is going to try and come back at me on the run into turn 1 as we head on to the last lap of the Grand Prix. It is Marduk Motorsport fighting over the victory. Boys, let's just hold this together. You're fighting your team, boss. We want the points. We need to win the Constructors. Don't know if we'll do it this season, but we need the points regardless. So let's just keep it civil, shall we? There's no team orders here at this team, as you could rightly tell. But even on this last lap, let's not do anything crazy, shall we? But you can see George Russell in the slipstream. He's got the DRS. He's going to go to the inside at the middle sector chicane. Does he have that? Oh my goodness! He backs out at the last second. Just that slight hesitation, and that could prove to be the difference between myself and George in today's Grand Prix. So close, as you can see on the replay. He probably could have got the lead there, but I think maybe he was being a bit sensible there and favouring survival in this Grand Prix. It's the last lap, the last chance, last opportunity for George Russell to steal this victory away from us. We've stolen it from him today. He's led so much of this Grand Prix. We take it with a lap and a bit to go. And as we head into the final chicane, George Russell is not close enough. So it looks like we're going to take the victory of this Canadian Grand Prix. But more crucially, we secure a 1-2 for the team once again.
Nice work, that's P1. Race win, well done.
A truly magnificent drive then, and a great performance from the entire team to secure victory here in Canada. So Anthony, what made the difference out there today?
I think that smart tyre management on track and very smooth driving definitely assisted in their victory today. That combination meant they got the absolute maximum out of their tyres at all times.
Well, I'm thoroughly exhausted after the excitement of that race, but I'm sure it's nothing compared to our drivers here. They've worked hard to make it up there, and it's great to see them make their way out onto the podium.
Oh my goodness. That was a really tough race. Really tough race. George Russell had the measure on me for a lot of that race. It was, I think towards the end of stints, he was tapering off a little bit. You could see that the momentum was swinging back in our favor at the end of the middle stint. We're starting to close him in again. And then we made that switch to soft compound tires. And I feel like that probably was the better strategy. I think lap traffic helped a little bit. Not majorly, but it was so close. Honestly, guys, it was so close between myself and George. I was pushing like mad, like a league race, trying to beat that guy. And we only just got in front of him in the end there, all while having to manage the tires and the fuel. I am so satisfied with that victory. I literally put everything into that. Hopefully you guys enjoyed. Leave a like if you did. Subscribe to the channel if you're new to see plenty more racing game content. Second in the drivers and the constructors. 7 points away from Valtteri Bottas in the championship. Could we win it this season? Drivers is certainly a possibility. But the constructors, still 46 points to Mercedes, who I would imagine are probably going to start upgrading soon. They've got to be building towards something big. We still need to work on our durability. That's why I am prioritizing that now. We may as well, while we're still getting 1-2s. There's no point working on the performance of the car, making it even faster, when we're already getting the maximum out of it anyway. The smart play is to make sure that we can minimize those races where George Russell has to start from like last or whatever it might be. Unfortunately, missing out on the sponsor bonus there. We collided with someone. Maybe our teammate. I don't know. But, yeah. Durability for now. Maybe work on the brakes at some point. When we get to the power tracks like Spa, Monza. We've got a failed power unit upgrade. I'll probably target that when we get to the tracks that need it. But for now, durability is the focus. And I'm trying to get through to the end of the season while taking minimal penalties if possible. But, yeah, there we go, guys. Really hard fought victory. I'm still not going to get complacent and expect race victories every single time. We did get quite lucky today with Hamilton and Verstappen starting down the order. Vettel not having a good qualifying either. So, can't get ahead of ourselves too much. But, yeah, we're in a good place right now. Couple of 1-2s, couple of victories for both myself and George. And we're going to keep pushing as much as we can. Thank you so much for watching. Leave a like if you enjoyed. I've already said all that. But check out my video from earlier today if you haven't already. I did a race where we did a no pit stop race driving as Lewis Hamilton, or in his Mercedes. And we did it online as well, and we challenged you guys to do that, and it was pretty fun. And yeah, it's a good video. Go check it out. But anyway, that's it from me today. Until the next one, I'll see you next time.